After the sad accident of Thomas Muster last night, we should tell you no decision has yet been made by the officials as to what will happen tomorrow afternoon. If we find out before this match is over, we'll let you know.
Of this match, Chris said, it's important for me to get off to a good start and keep my concentration. She said, I've had lapses. I've been fighting all tournament long. Said what will help her in this match is that she does respect the Sabatini game, and she said knowing that she's number 3 will help me concentrate in this final. But as Chris also pointed out, whether you're 3 or 4, you're not number 1. So she made a point to say that. You're still not number 1, Chris said.
First time that Sabatini beat Evert was last year at the Virginia Slims of Florida. She beat a 6-1, 7-5. They had played 6 times before that. Evert had won each one of those. And then Sabatini went on to beat Steffi Graf. She beat her twice last year. Both of them so far playing a little tentatively, Mary, maybe because of the wind and maybe just because it's the first game of a major championships and they're a little tight. Game point.
That is the shot that Chris Evert is going to have to look out for most in this match. The wide ball off the forehand side of Sabatini, dragging her wide to her forehand. It'll happen on the backhand cross course as well, but she's going to have to try and loop those back, work her way back into the points, and not really go for broke.
Told you about the times that Sabatini beat Graf. Of course, she lost to her a number of times last year, including 2 big ones, one at the US Open and the other one at the Olympic Games in Seoul in the final, but she took home a silver medal.
Oh, that's too good.
Chris chose to come in cross-court off that short ball. You present Sabatini with those kind of angles, and she can create even better ones off her forehand side. A dangerous play to come in cross-court against Gabriela Sabatini.
But what Chris seems, Steve, to be doing very well this game is pumping those first serves in. She's not going for too big a first serve. She said the last 3 months, she took 3 months off so she can develop more power in her serve, but she still doesn't feel it's consistent enough. And I don't think she wants to serve too many second serves against Sabatini.
Deuce in the second game, Sabatini 1 game to love. Or was it called wide?
Called wide, Cliff. It was just wide on the cross court there. Chris didn't play this. She played a little finer than she had to. She had control of the rally. The drop shot was not that good. Chris comes in on the two-hander, and look at it, just wide in the alley on the cross-court approach.
Awfully close call. We're a long way away from it. Looked like it might have clipped the line, but this is break point for Sabatini. Another break point for Sabatini. This is her second.
Up right in the middle of that point. There's no question about it. It contributed to that Evert error, unforced off the forehand side. She just didn't gauge it right. Sabatini actually hit short off her forehand side, provoked by the wind as well. It picks up suddenly in the middle of points, then dies down again.
Now, Steve, you know, I think Sabatini is at a disadvantage as a wind player because she doesn't move. I don't think sometimes she's specific enough in her footwork. But don't you think stroke-wise it helps Sabatini over Evert? That's what I think.
I'm not sure, Mary. I think that she handles it better than she used to, and with her heavy topspin, it's true she can control the ball and keep it in the court, but she can't always direct it exactly where she wants it. I think Chris is still able to place the ball just about where she wants when she's confident in the win.
But confidence is a big factor, especially if you lose it in the wind. It's so tough to get it back. 15 low.
My feeling on that, the reason I give the nod stroke-wise to Sabatini in heavy wind like this, or in gusty wind especially, is that she uses an oversized racket and she hits with so much, there's so much work on her ball, so much topspin, that even if she's slightly off, you know, if she frames the ball slightly or whatever, that ball will still go in and it will still bounce funny.
30 love. Mary, I agree with you. The fact is that there's a lot more margin for error in those spin shots. As you take a look at Steve Flink, who is our commentator at courtside, he's just about 10 steps from where Sabatini is when she serves. And that margin for error, Sabatini's shots have got her out to a big lead. One serve break, 3 games to love in the first set.
The feeling.
Jim Evert on the left of your screen, Colette, Chris's mother and father, and husband Andy Mill on the right of your screen, watching daughter and wife Chris Evert playing against Gabriela Sabatini. She trails by 3 games to love in the first set in this best of 3 set final. Sabatini's best win of 1988 was the Virginia Slims Championship. She beat Malieva, Zvereva, Sukova, and Pam Shriver, who had beaten Steffi Graf. She won that last one. It was a best of 5 set final.
When Chris was playing with the wind, she was overhitting the backhand. There you saw her not quite able to measure that forehand, the high forehand, hitting into the net as she's going into the wind. She's going to have to gauge this wind better. Up to this point, certainly hasn't done her best job. I thought this was a pretty good drop shot from Chris Evert, but watch Sabatini cover it. There's the same forehand drop shot from Evert. Sabatini so quick. Chris followed it in, but Sabatini angles it past her cross court with a slice.
She's right on top of things today, isn't she?
15-30, love 3, first set. You mentioned, Mary, the fact that she lost to Steffi Graf, but won a set at the Virginia Slims of Florida, which was the last tournament that Chris played here, not far away, a couple of hours drive in Boca Raton. That's the best result she's had this year. Hannah Mandlikova beat Chris at Indian Wells, and at the Pan Pacific tournament she lost to Laurie McNeil in 3 sets in the second round.
You saw Chris steer the ball into the middle of the court. Evert obviously wants to move around Gabriela Sabatini. But lately, you know, perhaps because of the wind, she's been missing. That last rally, she kept it right down the middle of the court and drew the error. Maybe she should do that for a while until she figures out this wind. Play it safe.
Overhit.
Yes, she did, Cliff. It was a short, low ball. She had to really try and guide that more than she did there. She took a pretty full drive at the approach shot. Dangerous choice.
It's tough for her, Steve. I mean, she's put together, she's constructed some good points and then hasn't ended them. A couple of big points thus far in the match. Chris really had control of until the last shot.
This is break point for Sabatini for a second break, first set. think she does. It's 4 games to love for Sabatini of Argentina in this first set, best of 3.
Sabatini leads 4-love.
If you're looking for some advantage that Chris has, Mary, relative to what you were saying about the fact that the topspin of Sabatini really helps her in the wind, and I agree with that. The fact that Chris has a slightly shorter swing on both sides is a plus in the wind, but I'm not sure that it makes up for it. 4-love, first set. Watch Sabatini's swing on the forehand, big wind up, and she has a much longer swing on the backhand than Chris.
15-love.
Even though I think Evert moves better, certainly cleaner than Sabatini, because Sabatini's ball takes so long to get over the net and into the court, she saves herself. She gets herself back into a strong position.
This is going to be one of the only ways I think that Evert can work her way back in, changing pace, lobbing, playing good defensive tennis, because when they're exchanging hard drives, Sabatini is getting the better of her. She's playing off the pace much better than Chris. Last point, I thought Sabatini was suddenly wanted to experiment with her slice backhand. She hit more than I think was necessary. It certainly didn't disrupt Chris's rhythm. Here we have Sabatini on the ice, so she finally went to the topspin and missed it after hitting several slice backhands.
$15-30. Just long, 30-all. Chance for Evert. She is 2 serve breaks behind at 4 games to love, but here's break point.
once again, we see how well Sabatini can handle speed from Evert. Chris hit a couple of very penetrating backhand down the lines to the Sabatini forehand, but Sabatini is not the least bit disturbed by it. You have to keep changing pace against her all the time.
Surkova hit some pretty dangerous stuff similar to that, didn't she, in the semifinals, and that did not faze Sabatini. That's who she beat in 3 sets. Surkova, a very different style play to Evert, of course.
Advantage, Evert.
Another break point. To the delight of the crowd, Chris Evert has broken back once here in the second set to get even. She's going to have to do it again. She's behind 4 games to 1. From Key Biscayne, Florida, it is Gabriela Sabatini and Chris Evert. And we have a man here that has joined us for just a moment that I know that you'll be interested to see, Mr. John Newcombe from Australia. Welcome, Nuke. What do you think about this so far?
Well, I'm really impressed with Sabatini, the way so far that she's dictated the match with a topspin shot. She's got Chrissy behind the baseline, and I'm interested to see how Chris is going to fight her way out of this hole. In the last game, we saw her pick up the pace a little bit on her drives. She also moved in and started slicing a few backhands, taking the ball earlier, but she's been in trouble so far. She's been trying to play from 6 meters or 20 feet behind the baseline. It's pretty hard to do.
Love the team.
4 games to 1, Sabatini in the first set. Evert serving, love 15. All. John Newcombe has spent most of the last 4 days just about 5 yards away from us, talking to Channel 9 in Australia. That's why he's here. Thanks for coming in. John, what are you doing these days?
Well, doing some work for the 9 network back to Australia. We're doing 7 tournaments, the major tournaments around the world back to Australia. Not as many as you're doing on ESPN. You seem to be doing 1 a week.
You sure do a lot. 15 all. Are you playing any?
I have a big match coming up in a couple of weeks. I'm playing the International Father and Son Championships in Switzerland, in Lugano, with my son. Hope to become the international champions.
Speaking of international, John, Sabatini, like Chris Evert before her, is so widely appreciated all over the world. Is she a big deal in Australia? What do they think of Gabby? Hasn't
played a lot down there, but obviously she's a big name and number 3 in the world.
Sure is an Aussie-type tennis, though.
Well, Sabatini hasn't done that well at Wimbledon yet, and Wimbledon is such a big thing in Australia, also the US Open, because she got to the finals there last year, and that established her credibility down in Australia.
15:42 break points for Sabatini to go ahead 5-1 here in the first set. She'd serve for the set if she could win one of the next 2 points. John Newcombe has joined us for a couple of games. Nuke, one match that you'll remember that Chris played, in fact the last Grand Slam championship that she got to the final of was the Australian Open 2 years ago down at the New Flinders Park, and she played very well in the final. You remember how she came back in that second set, Steffi Graf?
Yeah, she was down, I think it was 5-love or 5-1 in the second, and came back, lost at 7-5, but you can never count Chris out. And I love to watch Chris's facial expression as she's playing a match like this, because you can tell if you look closely at her face when she feels she's getting her way back into the match. Right now she looks very worried, and she's trying to, you can see her almost a mind ticking over. What can I do? How can I stop being dictated to from the baseline, which she's not used to?
5-1, 15-love. What an opportunity, but remember it is windy out there. 30-love.
It's sunny as well, but still this wasn't a tough smash for Chris. Sabatini was basically just trying to stay in the point here. This wasn't terribly high, but Chris was slightly off balance.
Thank you.
Just wasn't too well prepared for that big smash.
To me, like she didn't move her feet properly to the ball.
$30-15. Sabatini serving for the set. I'm Cliff Dreiser along with Mary Carrillo. Steve Flink is at courtside, and John Newcombe has joined us for a couple of games. Nuke, you guys from Australian television, of course, you're working with Fiery Fred and Tony Trebbett. How did you guys see this match? Who did you call for the outset?
I really wasn't sure. Played it down the middle. It's hard to say. I mean, Sabatini, she's 19 years of age, number 3 in the world. Chris is 4. Sabatini won 2 out of 3 of their matches in 1988.
Set point.
Tell you the truth, Cliff, I had never really watched them play one another before, so I wasn't sure of the tactics that would be employed. I've been surprised at how casual Sabatini is down there. She's playing so with ease. She looks like everything Chris hits, she feels I can get to it.
I can handle it.
And I've got plenty of time to play what I want to do.
That was set point. She has another one. Nuke, a quick reaction to, I know how sad we all are about it, but Thomas Muster and that deal last night.
Just shows you what to do in life. You never know what's going to happen, what's around the corner. Has one of the biggest moments of his life, coming back in that match last night from 2-0 down, and then about an hour and a half later, wham. Whole life changes.
Talking about Thomas Muster, finalist in the singles, had to withdraw because he was involved in an accident, in case you just joined us, late last night while preparing for dinner. He had knee surgery this morning and will go back to Austria and have additional surgery on his knee. Not over yet, deuce.
Mary, are we going to see Chris start to come into the net a little more?
She had better, because I don't think she's got any future in staying on the baseline with Sabatini. Unlike Groff, who can stay right on top of the baseline and hit them back even harder at Sabatini, even quicker, Chris is forced all the way back beyond the baseline trying to respond to the Sabatini ball. And that's what gets her in trouble. You know, that big, ugly topspin of Sabatini's worries Chris a lot more than someone like Steffi Graf, who can handle that stuff. More Chris is working on that baseline. It's normally Chris who plays cat and mouse with her opponents, but again, it's the style of ground stroke play by Sabatini that's so worrisome.
What about the option of bringing Sabatini in?
I think what Chris has got to do in set 2 is scare Sabatini, mix it up a little bit, hit more angles, and again exploit the fact that Sabatini doesn't move as cleanly as Chris. And as you say, there's no pressure yet on Sabatini.
And the first set to Sabatini. John Newcombe, one of the great players in our sport, certainly for those who know him, one of the great personalities. Thanks a lot for coming by. Enjoy your rest of your day with Channel 9.
Thank you, Cliff.
Sabatini wins the first set 6-1.